Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our webinar today. Again, my name is Meredith Call, and I serve as the Director for Parent and Family Services here on campus, but I have invited Dory Weldon, who serves as the Assistant Director for Off-Campus Student Services, to come and share with you all about the office, her new office and the services that they're able to offer to our students as they are moving off campus or trying to connect to campus as a commuting student or anything along those lines. So she's going to share some really great services about this new space that we've got for our students. I do have a few things that I want to share with you all before we get started, just some general information so that you can utilize the webinar the best and easiest way. One of the things to note is that we happily and want definitely all the questions possible that you want to share. If you haven't already done so, please make sure you mute your audio. I think we should have everyone muted at this point, but you should be able to find that up on the upper right-hand corner with the microphone. If you're not showing as muted, please make sure you do mute yourself so that you don't get any overfeed. For the chat, in order to ask any questions, there is a chat function. It's located on the bottom right, the very bottom of the GoToMeeting toolbar that they have. Any questions that you want, please make sure you put them in there. Please ask anything that we can to help make sure it's a successful transition or information that you need for both you and your student. But please be careful for any questions that you ask that you don't share with us information related that is identifiable information for your student, meaning please don't give us your student's Blazer ID or any other personal identifying information because this webinar will be posted online later on for people to review, and so I don't want that information shared out there. Again, like I just said, we will be posting this online later on, so if you need to go back and review any of the information, and then we are always available here at any point in time. Dory and I actually share a physical space, so at any point if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either office because we are here for you. But with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dory Weldon to tell you all about off-campus student services. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate.
Yeah, thanks, Meredith. So first of all, thank you all for being here today. I know it's probably a busy week for a lot of you, so thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to watch this presentation and interact with us today. So like Meredith said, I am the new Assistant Director of Off-Campus Student Services. I started here at the beginning of January, so I'm a little new to UAB, but originally from the Birmingham area, so this is home for me, which is exciting to be back here. But for those of you who may not be aware, I know I met some of you at the Parent Family Council a couple of months ago, right when I first started. So it was a pleasure meeting you all then, and I'm glad to be able to provide some updates today on what our office is doing. But for those of you who may not be aware, we are a brand new department within Student Affairs at UAB. So this was an initiative that came down from our VP of Student Affairs, Dr. John Jones, who recognized that there was a need to interact more with off-campus students, to engage them on campus, to make sure that they're staying involved, but then to also equip them with the resources that they need when they're moving off campus. So a lot of you may have students who are living on campus. This is their freshman year. They might have been required to live on campus their freshman year. Maybe they're moving off campus this year and you may not know where to start as far as housing is concerned, and we can certainly help with their housing search and recommend some good resources for them to check out for that search. But then also some of you may have students that are already living off campus and they've just got some general questions about staying connected on campus or the resources that they need for their apartment complex, whatever that may be. We do a little bit of everything. So we're a brand new office, but we've been busy, we've hit the ground running, and I'm going to go over some of those services today. Also, you'll notice on this current screen, if you're on Facebook or if you're on Instagram, please connect with us, like our page on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. That's the best way to stay up to date with what our office is doing. So if you want to, encourage your students to attend some of our events, please connect with us via social media, and that's how we will post everything that we've got going on. So I'll go ahead and jump into the presentation here. So I always like to start off with some student statistics so you'll kind of know why our office was developed. So as of spring 2018, this semester, these are the housing statistics for UAB. So you'll see for undergraduate students living on campus, that's 25% of our undergraduate population. And then undergraduate students living off campus is 75%. So essentially, we are working to serve 75% of UAB undergraduate students who are living off campus. And then also in a bigger picture, there's 14% of the total UAB student population living on campus. So with total students, that's including our graduate school students, our professional students, any visiting scholars that we may have, medical school, that's going to be the second portion of these statistics. So 86% of the total UAB population is comprised of students who are living off campus. And so we are focusing our efforts on that 86%. I don't have our retention statistics in here just because I didn't want it to be too data heavy for you all. But when we've pulled the retention statistics as of last fall, the retention rates and the graduation rates of UAB students who live off campus are significantly lower than students who live on campus. That's part of the reason why the freshman live-on requirement was mandated at UAB, because it's just easier to connect with students when they're on campus, and studies have shown that they retain at a higher rate when they live on campus. And so part of my job will be, how do we develop programming and initiatives and events to make off-campus students feel connected to campus, so then they will retain at UAB and that they will ultimately graduate from this wonderful university. So that's a lot of what our programming goals are, to make sure that off-campus students feel just as connected as students who are living on campus. So here's a graphic I developed to explain what our office does, because sometimes when I tell people, oh, I'm with off-campus student services, they kind of have this blank look on their face like, well, do you work off campus and you serve on-campus students, or what does that relationship look like with the university? And so I felt like this graphic would help explain what our office does. And so think of this graphic at the top, that's campus, that's where we are, that's where a lot of the programming takes place. And then at the bottom of the graphic, we've got our off-campus students. And so the things on the left side of the screen are things that we are hoping to provide to off-campus students. We want to provide them with housing options and resources for finding different housing locations around UAB. We want to provide them with opportunities to have their lease reviewed by people in the legal field to make sure that they know clearly what's written in their lease. We want to equip them with off-campus living resources, so whether that's safety information, information about the shuttles that run on campus, anything that would pertain to living off campus with those resources, we want to make sure that they're aware of all those options. And then also their rights and responsibilities, especially if they're working with landlords around UAB. Alabama has a landlord-tenant handbook that's fantastic, and so we have copies of that in our office. That will be linked on our website that's under construction right now. But just making sure that they're aware of their rights when they're signing a lease. And that's just that's a snapshot of what we do. We equip them with all the resources that they need, and that's just a brief picture of what we're doing here. And then on the flip side of that, on the right side of your screen, these are the things that we hope students will bring back to campus. So we want them to be involved if they want to be involved. I'm convinced that there's probably a student organization at UAB for every student at UAB. We have such a wide range of student organizations. I think sometimes when we think of involvement, we think a little bit narrow-mindedly of what that looks like. We think of like your traditional involvement opportunities through USGA or other student council opportunities, but involvement at UAB is very broad, and there's a lot of different organizations for students to get involved in. So we want to make sure that off-campus students are aware of all of those opportunities and encourage them to get plugged in with the Office of Student Involvement and Leadership to learn more about those great opportunities on campus. Campus events, we want to make sure that they're attending events. I'm just talking to Lauren Hobbs, who is with our Office of Student Involvement and Leadership, and they recently had a large campus event, and she was looking at the demographics of on-campus versus off-campus students who attended that event, and the off-campus student population was very low. And when we dug a little bit deeper into why that attendance might be lower, we noticed that that was a time that off-campus students have historically said is not a good time for them to commute to campus and attend events because of traffic. And so recognizing those commuter issues, I'm a commuter myself, and I know there are certain times of the day where it is a little bit more difficult to get to campus. And so we want to make sure that we're working with the Office of Student Involvement and Leadership and other organizations to say, okay, let's look at what are those time frames that off-campus students would most likely be able to attend an event, and then maybe we kind of tweak some of our programming to make sure that it's accommodating for all students at UAB. So time is playing a big factor in that, and then also commuting habits of our students. And then professional development resources. So I know that this is something as parents, you all probably realize how crucial it is to have these professional development opportunities. So whether that may be resume reviews or mock interviews or networking with professionals in certain industries, these are all things that we want to partner with our Career and Professional Development Office to make sure that off-campus students are just as aware of these opportunities and professional development resources as an on-campus student would be. And so, like I said, these are just a few ways that we hope that students will connect back with campus, but this is involvement, engagement, events, and then professional development are some of those key areas that we're honing in on to make sure that off-campus students stay connected to campus life. And so I know I've spoken some more like broad generalities, but this slide is some specific things that we're doing here at UAB to help serve your students. So one of those being our off-campus housing website. And if you want to jot down that URL, I won't pull it up because I think it may mess up the way that our webinar is streaming.
You can actually pull it up, yes.
Okay, I'm going to click on it. We'll see if this works. Oh, yay.
Don't make a liar out of me, but it was.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, great. I was worried that that would mess up the stream, but we're good. Okay, so this is the UAB's official off-campus housing website, and there's a lot of different components to this website, more than just how to find different housing options, but there's a roommate feature, message boards, and then a general resources tab. So your student can log in up here with their Blazer ID and password. I would log in for you, but my account looks totally different than your students would, so that may not be too helpful for you. But when your student clicks on housing, okay, it's going to make me log in. Let me see. I think I may be able to pull up the student side of things. Okay, perfect. This is the admin section, but it's automatically logging me into the student side of things. So this is what it'll look like when your student logs in. So here you can see that we have over 61 different options for places that students can live. We are working daily to increase those options, and we've already increased them a good bit from a few months ago, but we want to have a wide range of prices on the website. We want to have a wide range of locations. So you can see here, if you click on this map feature, you can search for living locations by the map. So if you wanted to live in Hoover or Fultondale, we're trying to expand our options if we do have students that are willing to commute in if they have a car. So that's one way that you can do that. You can also come over here to more filters. You can search by neighborhood, distance, if pets are allowed or not. And then this section, students always ask, what if I need to lease month to month, or if I need a short-term lease, how can I find information about that? So we always direct them to this website. You can filter different apartments by the lease terms that they offer. And there will be some that offer short-term leases, which may be convenient for some students. So the housing section is pretty easy to navigate. It's fairly comparable to other housing websites that I'm sure you've used before, and user-friendly. So if you have a student who is looking for off-campus housing, this is the the way to go. I will say that we vet all the properties that are listed on this website. So the way that this works, if a property decides that they want to list on the website, the third-party company that manages this website will contact me and say, hey, XYZ apartment wants to list on the website. Are you good with that? I will go to the apartment complex, meet with their leasing team, and then determine if we think it would be a good fit for UAB or not. So while we don't necessarily recommend or endorse any properties for students to live in, we do make sure that these properties are vetted. Now, with that, saying that too, we vet them, but then it never fails. You know, somebody may have a bad experience at one of our best properties. You just never know what's going to happen with any living situation. So we go by our best judgment to make sure that these are good properties for students who are living at UAB. But of course, we can never make any guarantees when it comes to these locations. The other thing that I'm not going to click on, just because it does pull up student information here at UAB, is this roommates tab. And so if your student is looking for a roommate, or if they need a roommate to move in with them to help maybe alleviate some of the costs, because it can be kind of expensive to live around UAB, and I'm sure some of you have encountered those costs. Roommates can be a great way to alleviate some of that financial strain. And then the great thing about this tab is that you saw I had to log in with my Blazer ID and password to even get to this website, and only student accounts will be able to even see that there is a roommate feature. So I think right now, I checked yesterday, we have 115 students who are on that roommate tab saying that they either need somebody to live with or they need somebody to move in with them. They have a roommate profile that they can set up with their preferences. So we have a lot of students that are utilizing that resource. So if you have a student that's looking for a roommate, that's a great thing for them to use. And then temporarily, as our actual website is being developed through the university, this will serve as a good temporary resources page for you and your students. So it's not very comprehensive right now. It does have the Alabama Tenants Handbook linked here that I mentioned. Our resources tab on our website will be much more comprehensive than this, but these are kind of like those key things that we think off-campus students may need when connecting back to the university. So there is that resources tab. So if your students need some general resources, that'll be a good place for them to turn to. At the end of this, feel free to submit questions, or as I'm talking, feel free to submit questions, especially if you have any questions or concerns about the website, and I'll be happy to answer those too. We'll come back over here to the presentation. So that's a great popular resource. We have a lot of students using the off-campus housing website. We just formed an off-campus student council with 15 students who live off-campus. So if your student, maybe your student is serving on the council, or maybe your student is interested in getting involved on campus, we recruit council members every spring semester. So next spring, or at the end of the fall, if your student is interested in joining the off-campus student council, if they live off-campus, we'd be more than happy to have them join. The off-campus student lounge. So we just opened our off-campus student lounge on the first floor of the Student Center, right next to Tech Connect when you enter the front doors of the building. So our lounge is open from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So please tell your students, if they, especially this week, if they need a quiet place to study for final exams, tell them to swing by the lounge and study. There's a lot of students that come in there because it is typically a little bit quieter on campus in the lounge. And so please tell them, come by the lounge. We would love to see them. And we have different programming and events that go on in the lounge that I'll talk about here in just a little bit. But it's a great space. I've got some photos that I can pull up for you all. There's like a sectional type seating. There's a lot of charging areas where students can plug in their devices to study. So it's a great area, and students have loved using the lounge so far. We are developing an off-campus living guide that will be coming out this fall, and this living guide will have everything that your student will need to know as far as off-campus living. So we'll have sample roommate agreements in it, we'll have safety tips, we'll have a map of Birmingham, We'll have information about the off-campus housing website. So be on the lookout for that. We'll also have a digital version, and I'll share that with Meredith so she can share that with you all. That'll be just a comprehensive guide for everything that your student will need to know when living off campus. We also recently hosted Off-Campus Student Week, where we had a different event in the Off-Campus Student Lounge almost every day of that week. And so one thing that we're really trying to do is to make sure that students even know that our office exists. And so that's kind of been the biggest challenge so far since we are a new department. We're trying to get our name out there. One way that y'all can help with that is just by telling your students about our office, telling them that you watched this webinar today, and mentioning some of the services that we offer. So through Off-Campus Student Week, that's what we were hoping to accomplish. With Wake Up Wednesdays, every Wednesday morning, which we actually just finished up a Wake Up Wednesday this morning, beginning at 8:30 in the Off-Campus Student Lounge, we have free coffee and donuts for commuter students. And it's available until supplies run out. This morning, supplies ran out pretty quickly with it being finals week. We had a lot of students on campus today, so that's during the fall and spring semesters. So this morning was our last Wake Up Wednesday for the spring, and then we'll pick back up in the fall semester. We also do Commuter Tip Thursdays. So if you are connected with us on social media, every Thursday, we'll have one tomorrow. We offer a general commuter tip for students who are living off campus and having to commute in. Just some helpful hints that can help with that commuting process. And then lastly, we're working on developing an off-campus housing fair for spring of 2019. And so we are starting the process of reaching out to various apartment complexes and inviting them to come to campus for the spring. So students can come to the Student Center and they can meet a variety of different apartment management companies, and then also figure out where may be a good place for them to live, kind of like a one-stop shop rather than them having to run all around Birmingham and meet with all these different places. These apartments are coming to us, and we'll have that probably in the ballroom area of the Student Center in spring of 2019.
Sorry, there was one question that just came through about actually defining where, I don't know if you said it in there, where the off-campus student lounge actually is.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's in the Hill Student Center, if you're familiar with this building, the main student center on campus, and it is right next to Tech Connect, which is kind of like an IT service area near the main entrance of the Student Center. So if you come in on the first floor and if you go to Tech Connect, our lounge is right there. Any other questions?
Yes, there is, but it's about parking, so we can answer that when we get towards the end if you want, or we can add it now.
Yeah, I have a little bit of information about parking at the very end, so that may answer that question, and if not, we'll tack it on there.
Perfect.
Great, good questions. So here's an image of our Wake Up Wednesday event. As you can see, we have some medical school students that pop in quite often with our free coffee and donuts. And you can kind of get a glimpse of the lounge here. But then I think the next slide, so this is actually an image. It may provide more of a visual for you all where the lounge is located. You can see like the window space that's along the far wall. That looks out at the kind of the main parking lot for the Student Center. So if that will orient you with this space. But you can see here we quite often have some students in our space that are lounging, some sleeping during the day. Some will inevitably come in and take a nap, and that's okay. What you can't see on where you see the sectional on the left, there is a pretty large screen TV where we can have workshops in the space and use that for different presentations. And then also there is a counter space also to the left side of where the sectional is, where we have information about various apartment complexes, and then we always have flyers for different events that are happening on campus. So we try to provide them with the housing information while also providing students with information about campus events and activities in the lounge. So please tell them if they're an off-campus student, we would love to see them in the lounge. Here's a picture of the countertop space. I forgot to plug that in here. So this is the TV space over here on your right side of the screen with different flyers about campus services and how we can support them as a university. Also, another great way for your student to find out about involvement opportunities on campus is through BSync. Some of you may be familiar with BSync, some of you may not be. If you just Google UAB BSync, this screen will pop up. Your student can log in with their Blazer ID and password, and then they will be able to see, if they click on the Organizations tab, they'll be able to see all of the registered student organizations at UAB. And from this main page that I have screenshotted here on the slide, they can see that first kind of row of images are going to be the upcoming events that we have going on campus. So even from that first screen when they log in, they're immediately kind of inundated with ways to get engaged on campus. So please tell your student to check out BSync, especially if they're wanting more involvement opportunities, and we can certainly show them how to use BSync if they stop by the lounge. So they can always just pop in and we'll help them get connected with events and involvement opportunities. So some general commuter tips, and I thought some of these may be helpful for you all as parents too. With parking, I know someone had a question about parking, and there is a UAB parking map online. If you Google, in fact I Googled it this morning to help out a student. If you just Google UAB parking map, it'll come up. And you can see where the designated lots are for various students. There are student lots, and then there are employee, faculty, staff lots too, and that's mapped out pretty well on the map that's online. You can also purchase parking permits. Your student can on Parking's website. And if you ever have any questions about where your student can park or how to purchase a permit or how much a permit might be, you can always email that uabparking@uab.edu. And from the interactions that I've had with them, they are very responsive. So was there a specific parking question?
We'll get to it. It's about family parking, and so I can bring that up here in the end and kind of show them that as well. So keep on your stuff, and we definitely will answer that though.
Gotcha. Same with dining. So if you have any questions about meal plans, every student at UAB who is enrolled in 12 credit hours or more is required to buy a meal plan that's, I think, $225. And so that is one thing, even for off-campus students, if you are enrolled in more than 12 hours, that is something that is mandated. And we've got some great dining options on campus, so students are usually pretty okay with having those dining dollars because there's some good places to eat here at UAB. So we do recommend, if you've got any questions about dining, they're also very responsive. You can reach out to that UAB dining at uab.edu with any questions about dining meal plans or where your student can go to eat on campus. One fabulous resource that I have utilized quite often are the class of 2020 or 2021 Facebook groups. So if your student is on Facebook and if they are not a part of their class Facebook group, I would encourage them to join. There are a lot of students who post apartment subleasing needs on the Facebook groups. So students cannot actually post subleases on the off-campus housing website just because that is limited to apartment complexes. But if they do need to sublease their apartment, those class of 2020 Facebook groups or whatever class that they're in are a great resource for that. And not only just housing, but any questions that they may have. Students will post events that their organizations have going on Facebook, so encourage them to connect with some of those Facebook groups. There are 2 resources for students who are trying to get around campus during the day and night. So there is a safety escort shuttle. It's a security shuttle that runs, I believe, between 9 p.m. and 5 o'clock a.m. around those times. This map on the left side of your screen is the kind of the boundary of where that security shuttle will run. And so you'll see it reaches from 5 Points to Regents Field. So if your student is out late at night, if they've been on campus studying, or if they need to get around campus late at night, that safety escort shuttle is a great resource for them. And I should have put the safety escort shuttles number on this slide, but I forgot to. So if you Google, once again, UAB Safety Escort Security Shuttle, their number will be on the website, and your student can call them at any point between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. to get around campus. One underutilized resource that not too many students take advantage of, that's a fabulous resource at UAB, is the Blazer Express. And it's a bus that runs during the day, especially with parking can be sometimes challenging at UAB, but there are several express lots where your student, if they can't find parking in their regular lot, they can go out, park in the express lot, and then the Blazer Express will run a consistent route and come pick them up. And so with an easy way to figure out where the Blazer Express is, where it drops off, is through, you can either download the Blazer Express Transit Locator app, or one app that your student probably already has is the UAB app. And so in the App Store, you can look up UAB app, and it'll bring up what's on the right side of your screen. This is the student-facing side. They can download the app, and if they click on that Blazer Express button, it'll actually show them the route of where the Blazer Express is running. So you'll see here, it's got all kinds of resources. It's got dining information. It has rec center information. This app is kind of like a one-stop shop for everything that's going on at UAB. And so if they have questions about the Blazer Express, encourage them to download the UAB app. And then lastly, you all may be aware of this, but we always like to emphasize the importance of having your student having their one card with them at all times, especially for commuter students. I know I have been guilty of this. I will leave my one card at my house, commute into campus, and then you have to have your one card in order to be able to ride the Blazer Express. So that's how they monitor who is getting on and off the bus. And so even with the one card, if I don't have it, I can't get on the Blazer Express. So make sure that your student has it at all times. Students are usually pretty good about keeping up with their one card, but especially if they're a first-year student here at UAB, that may not be something that they're familiar with yet. So make sure that they have that with them at all times. And that's the last piece of information that I have for you all. I know that's a lot of information in a short amount of time, so you can either ask questions now, or also here's my contact information. I'm dweldon1@uab.edu, and then that is my personal office phone number. So if you call that number, you won't get our front desk, you'll get me. So feel free to call me if you ever have any questions, or if your student has any questions. I will be more than happy to answer those, and happy to answer some now too.
So as Dory said, we're definitely open for questions now, so if you have anything, please type it in. There was a question that came through a few minutes ago while Dory was chatting about family visitations to campus and where do you park. And so while she was talking, I went out and found that information. So I'm going to pull that up for you now. But again, please, if you have any other questions that we can help answer about anything related to your student living off campus and moving off campus, let us know, because we are here for you. So if you go to uab.edu/parking, so for our family members, when you are visiting campus, I just learned a new fact today that there is a the family members can get a one-day parking pass for free to park in any of what is called our 15 lots. So I'm going to show you our campus parking map so that you can kind of see what this looks like and what I'm talking about here. And then hopefully this will help. So our 15 lots, which we'll consider our commuter lots, so it's the same lots that Dory was just sharing and talking about where our students can park on campus. It's all these lots that are highlighted here in yellow. These are our commuter lots. If it has the number 15 and then a letter after it, that means it's designated as a commuter space. So our family members are actually, as I just recently learned, are able to get a one-day pass to park in any of these lots for free. You can get that pass by a couple of different ways. If you know in advance that you're coming to campus, you can come online, and if you go to visiting campus, and then there was an option once within there about request a visitor permit. And so you can do that part online in advance. Apparently you do need to give them about a week before you come for processing purposes. But then also on the day of, if that doesn't work, you can just go by the Office of Parking Services and they provide their website right over here, or their address right over here, and actually just pick up that free pass that would allow you to park in any of those lots for the day. So that's a nice little resource. And of course, this is specifically for if you're parking on campus between the hours of 8 and 5, Monday through Friday. Outside of those hours, our parking restrictions lift, and those would allow you to park anywhere on campus. And when I'm talking about parking restrictions, that does refer to these lots. Parking on the street, specifically metered parking on the street, that is actually run by the city of Birmingham, and so those are, UAB does not have control over those. So if you are parking here on 14th Street or anything along those lines, 14th Street or anything like that, and you're parking in a metered spot, then that you are responsible for the meter as per the requirements of the meter. So that, just want to make that very clear as well, that street parking is run by the city of Birmingham. These open lots are run by the university, and that's where you can get those free parking passes needed for Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mm-hmm. So there's that question. What other questions can we help answer for everyone? Where again do you go to get that visitor pass? So once again, the place you're going to go is it's parking. It's uab.edu/parking. And then there is a visiting campus section. And when you click on the visiting campus section, there again is this option for request a visitor permit. And that will take you through if you want to do it in advance, or on the day of, you can go to their specific office, which is right here, and get their parking passes for the day. So, and there was... Okay, so Dory, here's a question for you about the Blazer Express. Does the Blazer Express run to the University House apartments, or is there a shuttle service, or is the shuttle service limited to drop off at official campus buildings such as the residence halls? If your student is walking home, concern being for students leaving the library late at night.
Sure. So and one thing that I want to make sure that I'm clarifying here, the campus safety escort and the Blazer Express are two different things. And so the Blazer Express runs during the day. It does not make a stop at University House, since that is considered off campus. We're actually working with Parking and Transportation to talk about the feasibility of the Blazer Express eventually stopping at some of those places. But as of right now, with this being an urban campus, it is difficult for the shuttle to make some stops in places that weren't originally designed for shuttle stops, if that makes sense. And so while the Blazer Express does not stop at University House, the safety escort between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. would be in that radius that could take your student to and from campus from University House. So for that late at night concern, the answer is yes, there is a security shuttle that runs for that. But during the day, that Blazer Express is primarily just stopping at those, like you mentioned, the main administration buildings and right around the residence halls. And you can see the routes. There's like a green line, a blue line, several different routes that the shuttle will take, and that's all in either the app or also on their website. If you look up, just Google the Blazer Express at UAB, it'll show you the routes that they run too. But yeah, that's a great question. At night, yes, always between 9 and 5, your student can be picked up if they're within that radius.
Again, back to the parking thing very quickly. No, you only ever need a visitor parking pass if you are on campus between the hours of 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Outside of that time frame, parking is open to, you can park wherever on campus. They will not be going around monitoring the parking. There was a question from a family member, can off-campus students still eat at the Commons, and do they have to purchase a meal plan outside of the $225?
To my knowledge, they do not have to purchase a meal plan outside of the $225, and yes, they can eat at the Commons.
The Commons will allow for students to, excuse me, to actually pay, instead of, you can use the meal plan like the regular price, but you can also pay an at the door price, which can be from the $225 dining services fee.
Yes.
Are there any other questions we can help answer relating to on-campus and off-campus student opportunities or events or things along those lines?
If we don't have any other questions pop up, one thing that I meant to mention that I did not, we just developed a survey for off-campus students at UAB. And so we are, we just got to thank you. Thanks. Thanks. So we are hoping to get some more student feedback from off-campus students as we continue to form the Office of Off-Campus Student Services. We want to know what types of events they want to see through our office. We want to know where they're commuting from so we can get an idea of how to best serve them. And so I will send that link to Meredith, and then I'm sure she may have some way to disperse that to you all, maybe through social media. We also have it all over our social media too. So if you like our page on Facebook, or if you're friends with us on Instagram, the link to the survey is in our Instagram bio at the top of our page. So I know I would personally really appreciate it if you could maybe encourage your off-campus students to complete that survey, because that's only going to make our office better in the long run. But that's the last piece of information that I have for you all.
And that's everything that I've got. Again, if you do think of a question later on, please do not hesitate to contact us. The Office of Parent and Family Services is actually in the same suite as off-campus student services, so we are able to easily communicate and get questions answered and serve you and your students with ease. So please let us know of any way that we can help. And we will be posting this particular webinar back online on the Parent Family Services website within the next week or two once we get it officially captioned. But thank you all so much for taking some time this afternoon to join us, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day. And then I also hope that your students are closing out the semester on a really, really high note. And have a great day, y'all.